sky's not blue.
Welcome back to the Cult House Podcast. I am your host, the scholar of spite and the Saturday Night Delight, Roger Riddell. Joining me today, he is a guitarist best known for his work with Alice Cooper, Slash's Snakepit, Gilby Clarke, and as a solo artist, Ryan Roxie. How are you doing today, Ryan?
Hello, thanks for having me.
Yeah, I think this is maybe the biggest time zone difference I've ever had. I've had people on the show from England before, but you're in Cape Town.
1 hour more. I guess it's one more, as Nigel Tufnell would say. Yeah, this time zone goes to 11 apparently.
Yeah, so how did you end up in Cape Town?
A strange sort of thing. It's always the opposite sex, I think. It's how I ended up in Sweden to begin with. I have two kids with my ex, and we lived in Sweden for 20 years, and then we split up. And then years later, I met a girl in London when I just got back with Alice Cooper, and in 2012. I just got back onto the tour because I'd taken a little bit of a hiatus moving to Sweden. For like 6 years, I didn't tour with him. And that same year, the last thing I was looking for was a relationship. I was, just having fun being back in the Alice Cooper band. And then, of all places, this girl's at the, Iron Maiden Hotel, Sanctum Soho down in London, just, doing her thing, her own business. She was having some sort of business meeting at the breakfast buffet, and that's where we met. And it's been 13 years later, and she's South African, and we're here now.
Yeah, no, I was thinking earlier, like it just crossed my mind, and I don't know why I thought of this, but I'm in Chicago, and just randomly I had the thought that like you're closer to the South Pole than I am to the North Pole, and that just kind of like blew my mind a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, and when I lived in Stockholm, it seemed like I lived on the North Pole, and now I've completely, switched to the South Pole. So that's why I kind of look like, a Timu version of Sammy Hagar right now, because I am slowly transforming into the Hawaiian hang loose, like it's summertime for us. And basically, fingers crossed, if I can keep this up, I can always be in the sun, because Alice, we do the majority of our touring north of the equator in the summer months and in the warm months. So then when, the tour ends, it's usually around November, December sometimes. That's when summer starts here in South Africa. So if I play my cards right, I will have the eternal suntan.
And you mentioned Nigel Tufnell. Have you seen the Spinal Tap sequel yet?
Absolutely, I have. Absolutely. It was great. Alice, actually, the day it came out, or maybe it was a couple days afterwards, he rented out a theater and he brought the whole band and crew. And the thing was, we were working on a new show. So we'd been working on a new Alice Cooper show with new set pieces, new design pieces, new set list. So all those things that were going down in the sequel of them, trying to put together a set list, trying to put together, the video screens and all that stuff. We had gone through that. I've always said that Spinal Tap is not. It's not a comedy. It's real life. It's everything that is. If you've ever been in a band, that has definitely happened to you. And the sequel, for me, it's like I've only seen it once. I feel it's another one of those things where I'll have to see it another 50 times to catch all the inside stuff. But it's a classic, and again, it just makes me feel kind of sad that was Rob Reiner's last film, and such a great legacy he left behind, especially even if it was just those two movies. that would be enough. But he's done so much more. So yeah, I can only imagine how the guys in the real Spinal Tap are feeling.
Yeah, no, I my favorite things in that sequel were probably the house that they were renting in New Orleans, how they just constantly had the ghost tour going through there. And then the at the end everyone, well, I don't want to spoil it for anyone who hasn't seen it, but
Like,
um
you can
the
spoiler alert Spinal Tap because we're all going to watch the people that will watch it. The people that don't aren't in bands and don't know about music probably won't get it as much
yeah.
at all, maybe even because there's so much inside stuff. But go ahead. What was it? What was
At
your?
the end they reversed the drummer gag.
Of course, yes, yes, yes. The drummer. Well, but if you think about it, it's the drummer that caused all the problems. And in our situation for our live show, we actually had to move the drums off center to make room for the video screen. So it was art imitating life, life imitating art. I don't know what it was. It was so funny because everybody in the band and crew was at this theater that in our camp, and we had just gone through the whole situation of moving the drum kit because we wanted a bigger video screen, and there, I think there was a little bit about video screen content and stuff like that, and we had gone through that conversation as well. So I mean, yeah, Spinal Tap is real life. It really is.
Yeah, no, I when I saw the original one, I was in high school in like the early to mid 2000s, and there was a guy in my hometown that owned the record store that I went to growing up in Kentucky. He was like really excited when I told him that I had like finally watched it because he was like, "Oh, I have to tell you like all the things that this is like parodying." And the one that has
This
always stuck with
happens.
me is
Yeah.
like the Stonehenge because of like
Wow.
Dio era Sabbath. They had a Stonehenge that was built, but it was too big for the venues that they were playing. So the movie like inverted that.
We've done that with Alice Cooper before for sure. We had this one uh, device because every tour, you know, Alice wants to sort of get killed a different way back in the day. Like when I was playing with him in since '96, we were like, how are we going to execute Alice? You know, now we've kind of settled on the guillotine. You know, there's no spoiler alert there. It's like it's almost like watching the Rocky Horror Picture Show. You know that Alice has to get his head cut off with the guillotine. So we've kind of come to terms with that's his execution of choice. But back in the day, we were experimenting with different things, and I still remember on the Brutal Planet tour, we had all these new set pieces that came on stage, and one of them was called the Crusher. And the Crusher was going to be these two walls that came in and just basically crushed him, and he was able to, you know, the gag was he was going to be able to sneak out the back through because of this foam, and there'd just be blood that spurted out. So it was like a vice grip, a human vice grip. That's how he passed on that tour. But it never came to be because the fucking Crusher weighed about a ton. It was, I'm not joking. It could have literally been a vice grip for like NASA or something like that because it was so heavy. I still remember like it was yesterday, them rolling it in, and the crew tried to, you know, maneuver it, and for some reason the prop company had made the thing like not just scale, they made it like the same weight density. They didn't have like that rubber foam stuff. You think it would be weigh like, oh, 5 pounds, and you could just, you know, move it across easily. No, this weighed literally a ton, and they were trying to roll it across the stage, and we were rehearsing at this really nice old classic theater in Phoenix, and I just remember this stage getting these huge grooves like going into the wood, like the wheels were like buried into the wood, and all these wood chips were coming up, and everyone's like, "Stop, stop! We, we're gonna ruin the theater." And then, you know, hence we never use the Crusher, but it's still in storage, so you never know. It might make a return someday.
I love just like random showbiz stuff like that too, because it's like I talked to a guy once who had been Tigger at Disney World, and he was telling me how in that costume, like you had to be careful when you were turning around kids because the tail was made of a material that like you could knock kids out with it if you weren't
Oh, you could
careful.
take them out. Yeah, yeah, I
Yeah.
could see you take you sweep the legs with that. I definitely can see Tigger being a problem. Can definitely see Tigger being some sort of class action suit.
Yeah, I mean with Alice, like there's just so many components to his live show too. Like I have somewhere around here the old like McFarlane Toys action figure of Alice from I think the late 90s, where it's got like the guillotine and like the spider webs and the whip and
Uh-huh.
like all these other props with it. And just like thinking back about all of that, like when he did Welcome to My Nightmare with like the giant spider, like how many things could have gone wrong with that spider or with
Oh
just
yeah.
like
Oh,
any other thing that he's had in his stage show over the years.
yeah, and trust me, they all do go wrong. I mean, we've been we've been to shows where the guillotine only goes halfway down, and then it doesn't completely work. And I just remember one tour in Germany where the guillotine we had played a lot of gigs in Germany, like 17 cities on this uh, European tour in Germany, 17 cities. Like you're lucky if we play, nowadays like yeah, maybe 4 or 5 cities in Germany. It's a big country, but 17, you're starting to play like civic centers and rec halls. But we were into it. We were deep because the album was getting a lot of traction in Germany. So I just remember being deep into the tour, and we played this one gig where the guillotine did not go all the way down. It just stopped halfway. I had to roll Alice off with his head still intact, and there was this German girl in the front row of the rec center or wherever the hell we were playing, and she just went like this. I guess that's I thought it was German for something, but it's international for that sucks. I think in, international disappointment sign signal hand signal. I guess if you're
Yeah, yeah.
listening to it on a podcast, you will not get it. It was a thumbs down.
Yeah, so tell me about your new single Fight Another Day. Like what was the process like for that? And I know like a few months ago you also had a single Better Than You. Like
Yeah.
um what has gone into your solo work with that and like what kind of, I guess for lack of a better term, inspires you most in your work outside of, a band like Alice Cooper?
Yeah, I just feel that you have to always be creating if it hits you and when it hits you. And I'm very lucky enough to have a team around me that when I do get something that inspires me, a riff or a song, that we can record it and we can sort of work on it on an international level. Like the drummer Trent that played on the last 2 songs, Better Than You and Fight Another Day, he lives in Albuquerque, New Mexico. So he tracks the drums in his studio there. I demo the stuff right here in this room. This is my sort of little sanctuary here that I'm lucky enough to spend a good part of my day, whether it's learning Alice Cooper songs for the new set, or filming the podcast that I have, or basically just doing interviews like this, or just practicing guitar and recording stuff. It's all done right here. So I did the guitars and vocals here. For Fight Another Day, which is the new single, it was very international in the sense that we had Bridget West sing some background vocals from Europe. She was in a band called New York Loose, very cool, vibey band, an indie type of rock band from the States, but she now lives in Europe. Keith Weir played keyboards. He plays with Guy Griffin in their band together. They were formerly of the Choir Boys, and he played some great honky tonk rock and roll organ and piano. And we sent all these tracks, my vocals, my guitars, the drums and the vocals, all coming from different countries. We sent them all up, of all places, Canada, to our producer Robbie Miller, and he put it together and mixed it, and we were able to like truly have an international single. So I'm very happy. And then the video that we put together with it, it comes from the brainchild of Erwin Longre, who lives in Sweden. So now we're really going, pole to pole, North Pole to South Pole. He's in Sweden making this 8-bit sort of retro tribute video of like an 8-bit video game, like an old Mario Brothers game, where he made me an avatar, and the object of the video is to get me to the stage while avoiding the evil tour manager or stage manager, which is the Big Ragu, who's a real life character, by the way, because we do have our tour manager in our stage manager in Alice Cooper is called Caesar. His name is Caesar, but we call him the Big Ragu. He's in the actual video as well. He doesn't even know it yet. Maybe the first time he'll find out about it is this interview. But he's in the video. You'll see him. The object of the game is for me to go through all his Big Ragu's security goons and get to the stage. And I guess you'll have to watch the video to find out whether it works. Spoiler alert, it works.
Yeah. No, I've watched it a few times and I think it works too. And the thing that stuck out to me about your solo work too is that, like, for lack of a better way of putting it, it sounds authentic. You know what I mean?
Thank
Like,
you.
I think that there's a thing that I think about sometimes where, and I don't know like how much of this is just like not overthinking the songwriting process or just anything like that, but I know that there are points with like Metallica, for example. Saint Anger feels like an album that was done by committee, and like Motley Crue kind of has the same thing with Generation Swine, where that feels like it was done by committee, where it's just like we need this and this and this so that we can sound modern. And
Yeah.
it ends up not sounding authentic when you listen to it. And I think that's the biggest issue with those albums. So how do you
Well,
kind of avoid that
I take
pitfall?
it. I call that chasing the dragon. It's and especially for a band like Motley Crue, who was the head of the dragon for so many years. When you try and chase the dragon, which is an old drug term, by the way, just for people that don't know, but when you chase the dragon, you're trying when you've already been like sort of the front end of something, and then you try to compete with what's going on right now. It's way better from I think, and which has been proven, to just remain yourself, because that's what people like about you is the authenticity and the originality of what you like originally said. I'm not saying that you can't adapt and you can't take influences from other types of music and make it your own, but you you can't try to be something you're not, or try and fit into a category of music that you just don't compete with. That's why I can't even try at this point, because all my favorite bands and all my if I find a new band, Roger, it's usually like a new band for me is early 2000s. I'm like, oh wow, I just discovered this new band that came out in 2010. So that's like a brand new band for me. I mean, there's some exceptions to the rule, and there are some really cool new artists out there making great stuff, and that I find on Instagram, and I'm always go down the YouTube rabbit hole every once in a while, and but for me, the music that I'm writing and creating is all influence from music I was listening to for so many years, and it's evolved in some ways, because it used to be Cheap Trick, like that was they were my Beatles. So I've been trying to recreate and write. Well, they were my Beatles. Cheap Trick was their Beatles. It goes on and on and on. But you pass the torch of rock onto whatever band is kind of comes from the Beatles influence. And I feel that bands like Cheap Trick, for one, Alice Cooper has a lot of Beatles influence as well. They passed it on to another generation, which was bands like Oasis, and obviously no one's going to say that Oasis isn't influenced by the Beatles. I was influenced by all that, but also indie type of music as well, and indie music, Manchester bands that were coming out of the time of like late 80s, early 90s, Stone Roses, um, Charlatans UK, Happy Mondays. I love all these bands. Um, and then my music, it has to be guitar driven. So pop, guitar driven, and obviously it's got to be having a a sprinkle or a punch of like heaviness to it, because I also was, as much as I'm influenced by those Manchester bands, the Laws, there she goes, but as much as I'm influenced by those types of bands, I was also influenced by Too Fast for Love. And the shirt you're wearing right now, an Ozzy shirt, Blizzard of Oz is like one of those albums that you have to love. You can't. It's undeniable. So that's
Yeah.
all in my DNA, and I think it kind of comes out in the new songs that I'm putting out, and hopefully, like you said, it's authentic, because I've come to this point in my life where I realize I'm never going to be able to sing as great as Robin Zander. I would love to, because he's like my all-time height favorite lead singer of a band. I think his voice is just bar none. And that's why I'm so happy that on my last solo album, Robin Zander sang California Man with me as a duet. And it was very cool. They came and guested on that as well. So if you like that song, go check out my solo album, Imagine Your Reality, as well.
Yeah, and I think to your point, those sort of core like rock aesthetics, the that sort of like crunch to it, and then that sort of garage kind of vibe, and then the poppy elements that come with any sort of good songwriting in any genre. There's always going to have to be like a good hook. Uh, those are kind of like timeless, because otherwise you wouldn't still have people that are in like their teens and 20s today who are still discovering bands like the Beatles or the Stones or Zeppelin or Sabbath or any of these other bands that have been around for like decades, and being like super into them.
Well, I mean, it goes, it's just a matter of tone and
Yeah.
how you sort of present a song. But you can't tell me that Nevermind by, Nevermind with Kurt Cobain, when he was writing that with Nirvana, you can't tell me that that doesn't have tinges of Cheap Trick. It's like when the first time I heard it, I go, "This is just Cheap Trick with heavier guitars." But then when I heard Cheap Trick, I was like, "This is just the Beatles with heavier guitars." So sometimes it's how you, an attitude and the tones that you put on it, but the elements of the great song and the hook are going to remain the same. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah. Yeah, and when it comes to like if you hear like a newer influence and it's something that you want to try that you haven't tried before, like what's kind of the trick to being authentic with that? Because like I look at someone like Alice Cooper, who he's kind of been like a chameleon over the years
Oh
with
yeah.
being able to try different things but still feel authentic with it. Like he went from those early sort of garage rock days to glam
Yeah.
to like in the 80s doing Poison, where it's or Trash, the Trash album, it's more like a hair metal kind of thing, and then
Yeah.
he experimented with industrial a little bit in the late 90s.
Riddell
So like
Planet and
yeah.
Dragontown for sure. Yeah, yeah, yeah. That was actually early 2000s. It was we put out Riddell Planet in 2000. I think Dragontown was 2002, something like that. But yeah, if you notice too that Alice likes to make those types of albums in twos. A lot of times that people don't really like we made a garage. We went to a garage type of sound, and we did two albums like that called The Eyes of Alice Cooper and Dirty Diamonds. They both have a very lo-fi garage band type of sound. Dirty Diamonds, or I'm sorry, Dragontown and Brutal Planet had that industrial vibe in twos. Before that, if you look at Trash and what was the album that paired up with Trash that came up?
I
Raise
think
Your
it was
Fist and Yell.
Constrictor. Was it
It might have
Constrictor or
been,
was it Hey
or I thought it was
Stupid?
Raise Your Hey Stupid. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It was a Hey Stupid. They have a little bit of a similar vibe and stuff. So he's lucky enough in that sense that he's got that Alice Cooper aura. that Alice Cooper, whether it's the voice or people just immediately can identify that voice and that character when they hear a song on the radio. That's why he's able to go through so many different styles, because at the end of the day, he's Alice Cooper. He's just sort of visiting this genre, and he's like, and not that he's being disingenuous about it. He actually really likes that style of music and has it in his sort of influence, his sphere of influence. He has all these styles of music. He's just lucky enough to have a personality and a character to work with, like Alice Cooper, that can be so identifiable, because no one's going to go. Imagine, you come to an Alice Cooper show in 2025. This band is playing probably about, I don't know, 12, 13 bands type of material, different genres of material, and everybody put their stamp on it, whether it's, the new wave sort of era of when he was going for Who Do You Think We Are and Special Forces, and almost a bit punk rock. And then we can switch from that to like playing a classic Alice Cooper, Is It My Body, or something a little glam, sleazy, and then go right into an industrial sound. The only way you could do that and play that many genres of music in one show is if you have a really strong personality or character, the way Alice does. And I think it gives us all something to shoot for, whether it's on stage or whether it's on our side projects. We all have that sort of like bar to get to, because we all know that Alice Cooper is the reason why most of us are getting, someone's going to Google my name probably 9 times out of 10 because they've heard about me through Alice Cooper. So it always gives me a little bit of inspiration and stuff to say, okay, well, what can I do to sort of be Ryan Roxie and put out a bunch of different types of genres, all within stuff that is in my sort of influence, put that type of music out and still be, as you said, authentic.
Yeah, because I feel like if you've been able to experiment with elements of, all these different genres in Alice Cooper, like that probably has to give you more confidence to experiment with them in your own like solo writing?
Absolutely, man. Because and I'm learning from some of the best guitar players in the world. I'm learning, I'm learning Steve Vai parts. I'm learning Rick Nielsen parts, Steve Lukather parts, Steve Hunter parts. Why are they all named Steve? All these great guitar players. But Steve Stevens happens to be one of my favorite guitar players. I'm
He's
learning
the
from all
guitarist
these.
so nice they named him twice.
Exactly. And I think there was a porn star that named themselves that as well. I'm not sure. But the thing is, all these great bands that Alice has put together over the years, we're learning those songs in the current set. So I'm getting to learn from some of the best guitar players in the business. So it can only help me once I've learned a song, it's obviously inside me. I know the lick now. So now maybe I can, maybe take a little bit of that influence, take a little bit of that influence and put it over into my thing as well.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, Alice just over the years too has worked with so many like great guitarists from the early days of just the Alice Cooper band to like Kane Roberts, like later on in the 80s,
Absolutely.
to you and
Absolutely.
to Nita and um
Tommy's right there with us as well on that triple guitar lineup. We've been this triple guitar lineup now. It sounds crazy, but we've been together with this lineup of this band and this touring band longer than the original band was together. That's wild. I
yeah.
mean, because we've been able to play in front of so many people and play the legacy hits and of all these different bands that Alice has put together longer than anybody else has. So I mean, we feel very fortunate about that, but we also feel like we have a little bit of a responsibility to pull off those songs the best and with the most spirit of what those original bands did those songs with. That's why even though we always put our own little, our own little stamp on it with a solo here or a lick here, we try to keep everything as true to the original recordings as possible. And like I said, it's a little bit of a responsibility to, make sure that everybody in the Alice Cooper legacy stays, you know, stays intact, and sort of whenever it is time to stop touring, people remember this touring band is like shit. That was a kick ass Alice Cooper touring band, and hopefully it keeps on going and going and going for as long as we can.
Yeah, no, I was just thinking earlier, like how wild it is too, the number of people who have just like gone through his solo band, and to this day, like he's still like just as relevant because the people who are playing with him are still becoming like well known within the genre in their own right. Like even in like the mid 2000s, you mentioned Dirty Diamonds, and like that's one of my
Yeah,
favorite Modern Alice albums. And I think on that album, Tommy Clufetos was still with the band.
yeah,
And like he
absolutely.
went from that to like Rob Zombie to playing for Ozzy to doing like a tour with
Dude,
Sabbath, I think. And
yeah,
like he became like well known in his own right. And then Nita is just like uh a superstar in her own right now too.
absolutely, absolutely. Nita's what Nita's been able to do with her platform is incredible. She got the opportunity to, step into this band and make a mark, and she's done it everything right. And I feel, getting back to Tommy, one of my favorite drummers I've ever played with. I loved him. In fact, it was Chuck and I that saw Tommy playing. Maybe it was, I forget what year it was, but we were doing a tour with Ted Nugent, and Tommy was playing Ted Nugent, and I grabbed Chuck and I said, Chuck, if there's ever if something happens with an Alice Cooper drummer, and I think at the time was Eric Singer was playing, he goes, if anything ever happens to a drummer in Alice Cooper, this is the guy. And what happened? Pretty much the next tour or the next year, uh, Eric Singer went to go play with Kiss. So he just went into the stratosphere with Kiss, and he got to be in that band. We're without a drummer. How about Tommy? Tommy stepped right in. Not on his audition. Uh, he didn't even learn the three songs that we had asked him to learn for the audition. He learned the entire DVD. So we gave him Brutal Planet to listen to or something like that, and we it's like 3 or 4 songs or something, and he goes, after we were done, I was like, that was really great. Tony goes, well, let's continue and do the whole entire concert because I know it. I'm like, shit, I forgot it. But that's like how you get the gig. Is like you you know uh what is it? You over prepare and you over deliver. You don't you under promise over deliver or something like that. It's one of those bumper sticker phrases, but he that's how you do it. You go and you double down and you learn more than just what you're asked to learn.
Yeah. Yeah. In situations like that, has it also given you an opportunity to be like a mentor to someone who is like younger and like newer to, uh, in a sense, to being at that, like, I guess, sort of like stage within music?
I used to think I was always the youngest guy in the band because I was for so many years. Now I realize that that's not to be true. That's so far from the truth. Now I'm like long in the tooth I just celebrated my 60th birthday this year. So crap. I guess I do have a little bit of a mentorship role, and I think that whenever we can help someone out in like if they see us and are inspired by us, that's even better. But I don't know. I'm maybe I'm misunderstanding your question. But was it about people that are coming into our band? Because Nita didn't need any mentorship. She knew what she wanted, and she went for it, and she definitely she's really good at seeing the goal. What is the goal here? Let's achieve it. What's the best way to achieve it? So if anything, she's taught me things on how to promote and do that kind of stuff. She's from a younger generation, I grew up. I still have to kind of learn my social media skills. I'm not 100%. I got a foot in the old school and a foot in the new school. How about that?
Yeah, yeah, that makes sense. Like that, because now that I'm thinking about it too, like, I mean, naturally to end up in a band like Alice Cooper, like, you probably already have to kind of like have your shit together to some extent. But it does make sense now that you're mentioning that, like, everyone in that band is basically learning from each other because, like, Nita or like Tommy during his time, like, they're probably bringing new ideas into the fold, and then you all are like also able to share like your experiences and things like that. So I I think that does make more sense than I'm thinking about. Like everyone, it's all kind of like a circular process, I guess.
Well, no, yeah, no matter the experience level, you can always learn someone. You learn something from another person that's in the band, and you learn good things, you learn bad things, you learn. Oh well, if that situation happens, I would do this now. But as far as guitar players, you're always learning from the person that you're playing with. I played in Slash's Snakepit for a number of years, and I can tell you, uh, I learned a much better guitar player playing with Slash every day for all those years, just being in every single day in Snake Pit Studios, because it's going to rub off on you. It's not that we ever sat down and taught each other licks. No, but if you're sitting there, you know, 8 to 10 hours a day, 5 days a week, just vibing off of someone, playing off their riffs, playing off their sense of timing, there's something to be learned about, something to be gained from that. And this power, this trio of guitars that we have now between Tommy and Nita and myself, it's a very special situation because we're able to learn these great songs to begin with. We have great songs to work with the Alice Cooper catalog. But then we get to divvy up the parts and say, okay, well, who's going to do, and we kind of have a little system going. We kind of know what songs Nita's going to do the main solo break on. Kind of know which songs I'm going to do the main solo break on. You kind of know which songs that Tommy can get his solo in there, and because Tommy's become a really great guitar player since I've joined the band in 2012. He's probably practiced more than both Nita and myself at getting better at guitar, because he started out as a bass player. When he joined Alice Cooper's band, he was a bass player, but he said, sure, I can play guitar, and he's proven it, very well. But yeah, there's so much to learn from every single person that you play with. So never discount the amount of experience someone has, or the level of whatever perceived talent someone has coming into a project, because you're going to learn something from them for sure.
Yeah. And whether it's like, Alice or Slash or, Gilby Clarke, who you had worked with earlier
Absolutely.
on,
Yeah.
what do you think are probably just off the top of your head, maybe some of the most important lessons that you learned from working with, all these different people over the years?
Well, between Alice and Slash, it's very easy. Show up on time. Alice shows up on time all the time. 5 minutes early is 5 minutes late. That to me is a key thing. Slash, not so much. He's on Slash time, and at that time during Slash's Snake Pit, he could afford to do it because, you know, it's his house. It's his. He would be the one that would be late to rehearsal in his house. So it is a gripe that I do have as far as people being on time, because I think it's a respect type of thing. Why would you uh, think that your time it goes back to Spicoli. Your time is better than my time. What about our time? And Mr. Hand, I don't know if Spicoli and Mr. Hand make
Yeah.
sense, but being that we've done the whole Spinal Tap thing, we might as well go down Fast Times at Ridgemont High as well for the kids. If you haven't seen Spinal Tap or Fast Times at Ridgemont High, two movies that you got to see. But there's a scene where Spicoli goes, what about our time? Because Spicoli shows up late and Mr. Hand takes his pizza. Maybe I'm not explaining it right. Maybe it's a Sean Penn thing. You
Yeah.
guys will get it. But showing up on time, I feel is key. The most people that I look up to most as big rock stars that I've been able to meet over the years, they're always showing up like on time, if not early, making people feel, even though they're a much bigger personality and might have more fame in the whole world, they make you feel like you're the most important person in the world and the most important person in the conversation. That's key. That's a major like plus to do. I try to do that like all the time. Be interested in someone else's conversation, whether you're like the veteran old tour guy and and the other person coming in is a fan from a meet and greet that has just been influenced by you. There's you know there's got to be some sort of mutual respect, and you look them in the eye and make them feel like the most important and the biggest person in the room. That goes miles and miles. I've learned that from Alice Cooper, because you can be on the tour bus and some of my friends will come in that have never met Alice Cooper and they're nervous, you can tell. But Alice is so giving as a guy and an iconic sort of name. He makes you feel like you're the star in that bus at that moment when they walk into the bus and meet him. So it's a really cool characteristic to have. So maybe I've learned more about just being instead of music stuff, Obviously learn the pentatonic scale. Ryan Roxie told you. Because everybody too uses it. The pentatonic scale. Don't let some joker on YouTube fool you into soloing in modes. Yeah, okay, you can do it, but pentatonic scale, folks. Pentatonic scale. That's my musical advice. But the other thing is show up on time and make people feel like they're more important than you, no matter how big your ego is.
Yeah, that goes to another question that I was going to ask you about. You do these things that are called the rock and roll parking lot, where you'll have
Yeah.
like a spontaneous meet and greet or record store visit or like an impromptu performance. So what goes into that, and like how has it become harder to be that level of like fan friendly over the years as the industry's kind
Uh,
of evolved?
COVID, the dark times kind of messed all that shit up for a while, because I've always been into meeting the people that we play for. The reason why we're able to continue to tour to this day on this level and get to play the venues that we get to play are because of the people that come to see us. So why not meet those people? Uh, have why not find out a bit more about your audience, being that they're the ones that are basically supporting you? And I've always felt that way. And I've always tried to do special things for fans. Like I said, COVID kind of messed things up. They shut things down. We were in a bubble for a few years. So then I started doing this thing called All Access. And it's basically I take people in. It's like it's more of a inner circle type of thing, and we have special places where we can meet outside the venues, special events that only happen for all accessors. Plus, virtually, they get to see all the stuff that's backstage. They get to see all the we might call it boring stuff, but maybe they're inspired and they think it's like really exciting to see. Okay, what the hell is catering? I've heard about this catering at shows, or what, what is a what is your makeup station actually look like? Because how much makeup does it actually take for you to look like this or turn this into something other that's on stage? So I go through that whole thing with All Excess, and it's a thing that I do on my website. So if anyone's interested in it, it's just ryanroxie.com. It's one of the first links that's up there, just called Roxie's All Access Pass. Check it out if you like it.
Yeah, when it comes to like the more spontaneous meet and greets too, like, is there, I guess, sort of like less of an incentive to do that sometimes now when a lot more of the business side of things for some bands can depend more on like paid meet and
Paid
greets?
meet and
Like
greets,
it,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, but it is and it isn't, because the bottom line is I think the people that will come to a special impromptu thing are the same people that will pay for a meet and greet. The audience, especially if they're invested in you, they understand what has gone down in the music business. There used to be a time, listen up, kids. There used to be a time when you would get paid for releasing music. That doesn't happen anymore. Your music is a commercial for you to get enticed to come to a live show, buy a t-shirt, maybe buy a meet and greet. People understand the economics of the music business has changed. And it's kind of strange that your product of what, if you want to call it product, your songs, your heart, your soul, is now a promotional tool and not really an income tool. Yeah, there is sort of exceptions to the rule, and every once in a while you can have a hit song or get the song put in a beer commercial or an NFL commercial or whatever. But for the most part, our music is there to inspire you to come out to a show. And then when you come to a show, hopefully, as an artist, you're real enough and engaging enough and entertaining enough to make that person become a fan. Then when they become a fan, I think at that point they do understand that, like, look, it's for me to buy the meet and greet. I realize, yeah, I get my picture with Alice or Slash or whoever. I get my picture with them and I get my moment with them. But it also it does I am contributing for all the uh, you know the free music that basically is getting put out there and all these things. And look, you don't have to. Nobody. I don't think anybody pressures you to go to a meet and greet and stuff like that. The bottom line is when you do something for free or you do an impromptu, you do a free show, that just makes the hardcore fans that much more dedicated to you. So it's important to do it both. And by God, when you meet Alice Cooper at a Hot Topic, he's going to be just as engaging and just as interested as when you meet him at a meet and greet.
Yeah.
And I'm the same way. If you meet me at a Starbucks, I'm going to be just as like interested in your conversation as I would at a paid meet and greet or at some sort of paid event. So it is what it is. The economics have changed. Hopefully, people understand it. Some people might never understand it, but hey, I'm I'm happy and I'm lucky that I play guitar, especially in this world of that's coming around us with all the AI bullshit and all our jobs getting replaced. So they say, try and replace a rock star, at least in the next 10 years. It's going to happen. I get it. But, at least I got a little bit, I have a couple more years left before, Z-bop, boop bop, bing bop, AI is number one.
Yeah. No, I mean it's been fascinating just with pop culture in general how much the like digital age has kind of changed the whole process of like meet and greets and autographs and photos and things like that. Because like
Yep.
there are like pocket industries in some situations where people just like go and like find places where they can like meet someone for free, get them to sign a bunch of things and sell it on eBay. Like there's issues with like pro wrestling with that and like airports where people
Oh,
figure out
dude,
the
yeah,
airports that
well,
these
we
guys are
know.
flying into. Yeah.
Yeah, we get that at the hotels. We got the guys that are just, that are inside, that they're outside the hotel and they have the Sharpie ready, they have the album ready, they have everything ready, and it's just here, sign this. It's going straight to eBay. But I mean, if that's the world you want to dive into, you should really check out the underbelly world of the guitar pick industry. There you go.
I know I have a few picks that I've been lucky enough to catch at different shows, but like those all, go straight into the personal collection where it's just like I can look back now and be like, yeah, this is like James Hetfield's pick that I caught a few years ago, or like I got this pick from Tommy Victor when he was playing for Danzig, or anything like that, where it's just like it's a
You can go
nice
into the
little
dark
memento of
web
being at a
and you can
show.
go in the dark web and get pretty much a guitar pick from, my grandmother at one point. They probably printed one up.
And
I
it's
mean,
wild. Like some of those picks you have to like wrestle people for now too, because they're just like scrambling for them.
well, unless you're at an Alice Cooper concert, I'll tell you, and stage left, they're pretty free flowing, man. Tommy and Nita like to flick those picks. I like to have my market value stay kind of, I'm a little bit more conservative when it comes to flicking out handfuls. I'm not full Rick Nielsen of Cheap Trick yet, but yeah. Yeah, the guitar pick industry, the underbelly guitar pick dark world is an interesting little world to get into.
Yeah, and speaking of guitar, you've got the System 12 guitar method, which I was reading about this earlier, and now I need to look into it because there have been various points over the years where I've tried to teach myself guitar, and I'll get some like basic riffs down, like the standards, like the Iron Man, the Smoke on the Water,
Yep.
the main riff from like Inner Sandman, and so on. But the thing where I always get frustrated is hammer-ons and hammer-offs, and then I'll hit a point where I'm just like, ah, fuck it, and then I just like put the guitar down for a while, and like I need like a better way of figuring out the right way to do these?
I think we did that with System 12. I really do. I think System 12 is probably the simplest way to get you understanding the guitar and playing songs because you're going to learn from playing songs. You can learn all the scales you want. You can learn all the first position chords you want on a diagram and get your hand, cramped up and moving 1,000 different ways, which is the worst thing to do, by the way. If it's the first thing that you're supposed to learn on guitar is these first position chords, you can do all that, but if you don't know a song, it makes it unrewarding. So the first thing that I do, and basically the first lesson of System 12 is like I teach you three strings. I teach you just the first three open strings, and then you learn a song from that. All right? That's how easy it is. The most important thing is that you learn the notes and chords, power chords, basically root five, and you can call it bar chords or power chords. They're kind of very similar, but I teach that very early on because the reason I do that is because once you know just a handful of these power chords, just this one hand position that you move up and down the neck, once you know that, you can play any song that was ever written. And the way I teach guitar is very simple in the sense that your guitar is only 12 notes. It's only 12 notes total with their sharps and flats. There's actually 7 whole notes. That's it, just 7. But if you take the sharps and flats, 12 total. So a regular guitar, for instance, and then again, if you're listening to on the radio, you are kind of, or in some sort of podcast, you're messed up. You should be listening on the video. But these 2 dots is very simple on the guitar. That's your 12th fret. So basically, a whole guitar neck is not as confusing as it seems, because your whole guitar neck is this up to the 12th fret, and then it's just a repeat. That's exact, and a lot of people don't understand that. So already you've cut the guitar almost in half, and all these little notes, there's just one note. It goes in line like the alphabet. If you can say your alphabet up to A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and you can count up to the number 12, I can teach you how to play guitar very quickly with System 12. It's that simple.
Yeah, because like I'll talk to like guitarist friends, from various bands, and like I'll be like, "How do you do like the hammer on and hammer off?" And they'll think about it, and they'll be like, "I don't know. Like it's been so long since I learned how to do that I don't know that I can explain it because it's just like muscle memory at this point."
Well, I mean, hammer on, hammer off, doesn't matter what key you are, it's the same movement of your muscles. So your first finger and your pinky are going, or your third finger, whether you want to pull off on with your third finger or your pinky, you can do that without even having a guitar in your hands. You can start, basically pull off, pull off, pull off, and hammer on, hammer on, hammer on. You can do that without a guitar in your hands and with your hand around a guitar neck. All this is just finger coordination. And I know this, that finger coordination is so important, and it can only come with practice, because I'm trying now to learn guitar without a pick. I'm doing a lot of new guitar playing where I don't use a guitar pick and I'm just using my fingers. But my right hand doesn't want to cooperate just yet. And that's how I realize it's just going to take some time. Just like your buddies that were saying, "Well, I don't even know. I've been doing it for so long. That's just how it happens." The hammer-ons. It's the same thing with this right hand for me, trying to teach my right hand how to be as coordinated as my left hand. So don't stress about that. The most important thing that you have to learn with guitar is that it's not as hard as your guitar teacher, as your local guitar teacher wants you to think it is. Because it's just thinking from a pure economic sense. If your guitar teacher taught you everything that he knew in 1 month and you could learn guitar in 1 month, there would go his years of salary. He'd have 11 other months. Whereas for me, with System 12, I put out System 12. It's 12 lessons. There will always be someone that's turning 16 that wants to learn how to play guitar. My goal is to get you playing and get you on your guitar journey as fast as possible. Like, learn it, get it under your system, learn it so well that you find my course boring. Then once you find my course boring, go out, go onto the dark web, go onto the wonderful world of YouTube, and you can go down every rabbit hole you want. Some people make the mistake of going down the YouTube guitar lesson rabbit hole too quickly, then they get overwhelmed. If you jump down that YouTube guitar lesson black hole, you're going to get swallowed up too quickly if you don't have a little bit of foundation and knowledge about what the notes are on the guitar and how to play a power chord. So that's my shtick on, and that's my spiel on on why the System 12 guitar method is what you should start with. And even if you're intermediate, what you should at least learn before you start going down that other route. So the first 2 lessons I have up on my site are free. Go check it out if you like it. After that, you can buy the meet and greet.
Yeah, like it's one of those things where every time that I've, tried to start down that path, it's like I'll hit a point where like, man, I regret not trying to do this when I was a teenager versus in like my late 20s and 30s. 'Cause like when I was a kid, I spent more time learning how to sing than to actually play an instrument when I should have, like in retrospect, been doing both.
Yeah, but I mean, coulda, woulda, shoulda. You got the time. If you like, and I said, when I say you got the time, everybody's got 10 to 15 minutes a day, or at least 3 times a week, 3 to 5 times a week. If you can get that schedule and just dedicate yourself to 10 minutes 3 to 5 times a week. So I'm as little as a half an hour a week, as much as an hour. You will learn. You will learn, and it's not as hard. Again, it's not as hard as some people want to think it is. My oldest saying, and and I think it still holds true today, although the reference probably people might not get. But if Courtney Love can learn how to play guitar, so can you.
Yeah, so I've had you for about an hour now. I don't want to take up too much of your evening there, but
I appreciate it, man. Well, we got, we do have dinner. I mean, you're just getting ready for breakfast. I'm hearing the dinner bell ring over there.
yeah, and, is there anything else that you want to put out there before we get off here?
For sure, go check out ryanroxy.com because all the links are there. Whether you're interested in the guitar lessons or whether you're interested in just checking out the All Access Pass or whether you're the new video, which is Fight Another Day, that's on YouTube. But we have the links right there on ryanroxy.com. And there's also a live show that I did on this last tour called Rocky's Rock and Roll Symphony that our good friend Paul Unger helped out with promoting it. And he might be the one that had gotten in touch with you to do this interview. So I have to give a shout out to this Rocky's Rock and Roll Symphony. It was a cool experience. It was a first time he's ever done a live podcast with a live audience. They all got in the studio. Paul Unger promoted it, got all these people in there, a lot of Alice Cooper fans and Ryan Roxie supporters that were all there in the same room. They got to ask me a bunch of great questions. I got to play songs from all my solo albums, a couple Alice songs as well. And Rocky himself asked me a bunch of great questions. And it was a cool evening, just an intimate, me and acoustic guitar, storytelling, songs. Go check it out. I think maybe you can put a link down there in the description of Rocky's Rock and Roll Symphony. And again,
Yeah.
ryanroxy.com will have the links as well. But I appreciate you taking the time and talking to me and having a good chat. And I've been able to be inspired by your Aussie shirt the entire interview. Because I mean, I just keep on thinking of, I mean, that's old school. Unless you got it, distressed on purpose. That looks like an old school, like it's been in the wash a few times, and it kind of is it from the Randy era or where was
So
that
this
tour?
is from so this is the No More Tours Volume 2 from like 2018. So it was
Okay,
a redo of one of the old Speak of the Devil tour shirts from like
nice.
that era of Ozzy. But I mean this has been through the wash a whole bunch of times since 2018. So
It's good to know that you do laundry, Roger. It's very nice.
But yeah, again, shout out to Rocky's Rock and Roll Symphony. I know that's I think that's Pittsburgh based.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
especially, people in the Pittsburgh area, check that out. I don't know if he's planning to do more of those live sort of studio kind of things, but I mean definitely keep an eye out on that for anyone that's in that area.
for sure, man.
Yeah, no, thanks for taking the time today, Ryan.
All right, Roger. We'll see you again, man, and hopefully we'll see you somewhere out there in 2026. We've got two Alice Cooper tours coming up. We've got one with Chris Angel and Alice Cooper, which is Illusions in Rock and Roll. That starts happening. That's going to be a Vegas thing where it's like a Vegas residency. And then we also have the Alice's Attic tour, which is going across the U.S. and Europe, and then hopefully back to the U.S. all throughout 2026. So if you want to, again, just go check out my website or Alice's website for the tour dates. But hopefully we'll cross paths at one point. All right.
Yeah, I'll look into that and I'll keep an eye out for those tour dates.
Appreciate it, man. Have a good one.